What if I told you that the most successful networkers I know have one thing in common, and it's not what you think. They're actually more vulnerable in conversations than most others. Now, not oversharing, not trauma dumping, but strategically 15% more open than feels comfortable. I discovered this over time after analyzing just thousands of conversations I've had with people and understanding what really made a difference to relationships, right? The hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of coffee meetings that I've had, for example. And what are the conversations that led to the biggest opportunities? And what are the ones that really didn't necessarily go anywhere? And I really think it all had this one element. And it wasn't about whether they were relevant to my business or whether or not they were, quote, valuable, but it really came down to, could we connect at a human level? And connection relies on one key ingredient. So today, I'm breaking down psychologist Carol Robbins' 15% vulnerability framework that really can completely transform how you build and maintain relationships. So by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to use this strategic vulnerability to build deeper trust, build faster rapport, and ultimately more successful and long-lasting relationships versus the transactional kind of coming and going that we unfortunately used to associate with networking, and a lot of people still do. I used to attend networking events with that perfectly polished elevator pitch, right? And the business cards in my pocket ready to go. And I would exchange, 50 business cards and connect on LinkedIn and get exactly 0 meaningful follow-ups and connections afterwards. And it's no surprise. Harvard Business School has a study that shows that 67% of professionals report feeling disconnected despite extensive networking. Traditional networking feels inauthentic and transactional. And why? If you think about it, it's because we spend so much of our time thinking about, well, how do I get value out of this person or deliver value out of this person? And we think about the connection as that pure exchange of value. But what we've seen time and time again is that that trust matters so much. It should be no surprise to us that transactional networking feels really empty, because what it's missing is that human connection. Now, on the flip side, we have learned so much in recent years and have so many tools at our disposal that will help you build and maintain a deeper relationship. So, for example, you might be familiar with Dr. Arthur Aaron's 36-question study that showed that just by putting 2 strangers together and having them walk through a set of 36 very basic questions, going from gradually just increasing the vulnerability from very, very basic questions up to some of the most deepest questions we ask. They can build friendships. People have gotten married purely based on just asking each other the right questions. And so how do we apply that into our world? So Carol Robbins, the Stanford researcher, and has one of the most prominent courses around connection and a great book. She has a very, very simple framework. Can you just be 15% more vulnerable than your comfort zone? So now think about it, all right, what does 15% more mean? 0% means I'm not gonna share anything other than what I would normally feel comfortable talking about. And 100% is, well, I'm going to sit down with a total stranger and share my deepest, darkest secrets, the things that no one knows, the things maybe I have ever been afraid to share myself. So 15% more just means being a little bit more open. Should we walk through some examples? Now, before we walk through some examples, let's actually talk about some of the neuroscience behind it. So there's this research around mirror neurons and how vulnerability, as well as other traits, can trigger reciprocity. So we tend to mimic what other people are doing in front of us. So it might be we match the tone of voice, we match the position. And for us, if they are vulnerable, If they're sharing with us, then we're much more likely to share with them, and vice versa, right? If they have an icy wall up, well, we tend to be a little uncomfortable saying, all right, well, I guess I shouldn't be sharing more. One of the other, interesting pieces of research, and you'll get what I'm saying when I say this, is the beautiful mess effect. We generally judge others more favorably for being vulnerable than we judge ourselves. So keep that in mind. We may actually think that we are exposing ourselves as weak or incapable or unprofessional because, well, I think myself sometimes as weak or incapable or unprofessional. But with the beautiful mess effect, we actually know that the opposite is true, that we actually judge others more favorably when we do that. So now, how do we apply that into our connections, into our conversations? Well, first and foremost, when you're sitting down with someone, I believe the best opportunity to be 15% more vulnerable is right when you sit down. Because as we know, whenever you start a conversation, whether it's with someone for the first time or someone who you've met dozens and dozens of times and you're catching up with, there's always that little bit of small talk. Starts off with hey, how's your day going? Or hey, how's life? And instead of saying, when responding to how's your day going, you can say, oh, good, just really busy. You can say, hey, it's good, but honestly, my kids were total monsters this morning. Or, do you know, it took me forever to find parking for this. I don't know why. I just had the worst luck this morning about parking. Or, it was good, but for some reason, I made the mistake of staying up a little too late watching the latest TV show, and I just had crap sleep. Think about that. Again, it's not saying that you are a weak human being. It shows that you're a human being because we all make those mistakes. We all look for those little bits of vulnerability. Now, if you try that, I can almost guarantee that that person will either acknowledge you, oh man, sorry to hear about that. Trust starts to build, or they will reflect it themselves. Honestly, I'm normally shocked that I'm able to get out of the house on time because it's always this panic with the kids moving and they've lost their socks and then they want 3 different breakfasts. And all of a sudden, you now have a relationship with a human being, not with a business prospect. The other thing that you can do is share your learning moments. So for example, if you are giving advice, or even if you are rejecting or challenging something that they just said, you don't have to say, well, from my experience, ... You can say, hey, I've thought about that, tried that in the past, but I've run into a lot of issues. So for example, if let's say you are going over a potential business opportunity with them and they're pushing back and saying, hey, well, why do we need to have this particular business clause? Or why is this pricing important for you? You can say, for example, hey, listen, I used to think that, having a very, very firm business contract wasn't really necessary and we could all go off handshakes. However, unfortunately, I've learned that, there are some bad actors out there, and going through all the legal arrangements up front and really making sure we are fully aligned allows us to put all the legal stuff together and really just focus on a great relationship. Now, again, that shows that you've had challenges in the past, which is completely okay because they have too, whether or not they're always willing to admit it. And that is really, really helpful. Now, the last one is don't hesitate sharing stories. Now, remember, we are not transactional automatons. We are not there just to exchange information. So think about, as you are sharing advice or insights, can you attach a story to it? Can you share how you dealt with a challenge? Maybe one that you're still dealing with. So for example, if you can say, hey, you're booking a follow-up meeting. Hey, listen, I would love to meet sometime this week, but one thing I'm struggling with is, my schedule just sometimes isn't my own. And, we're still figuring out our kid pickup and drop off. It shows, hey, again, you are a human being. If you do this correctly, and again, correctly means not undersharing and sharing nothing at all, and not necessarily oversharing and trauma dumping to the point where they're like, I actually don't know how to respond to this. 3 things happen. Number one, you'll see them acknowledge you. You'll feel heard, which of course feels great for yourself. Two, they'll trust you. They'll see you as an actual human being, and they're much more likely to stay connected with you. And number three, you'll see them being more vulnerable with you. And a lot of really, really cool things happen because that opens up the opportunity for you to, of course, understand and relate to them further and maybe help with them. Because remember, we're all human. We all have personal struggles. We all, whether it's have a bad night's sleep or have a challenging family member, there are always these little issues that pop up. And so now the question for you is, will you feel comfortable not necessarily being fully open and honest with absolutely everything on your mind, everything you're thinking and feeling? Yes, of course, that's a ninja level skill, but that's also not necessarily always appropriate and can be distracting and degrading for a relationship if all you're doing is talking about your challenges and failures. So instead, can you just think about, how can I be a little more vulnerable? And it may feel uncomfortable at first, but that's why we're not asking you to bare your heart. Just be a little bit more open. Share some of the mundane challenges that have happened recently. Again, a bad night's sleep, or you were sick last week, or your kids were crazy this morning, or yeah, you got a bunch of emails this morning that you're kind of feeling a little overwhelmed by. Whatever it is, are you willing to show to the other person that you're a little bit human? Now, of course, I record a lot of videos about all sorts of tactics around building and maintaining relationships, and a core pillar is about how do you be more and more authentic, how to be you, not just the perfect professional who has everything buttoned up. So think about the next conversation I sit down for, how can I be 15% more vulnerable?